President Bush today brushed off suggestions that tensions between two of his critical allies in the war on terror are hampering the hunt for Osama bin Laden. Mr. Bush is preparing to host an extraordinary dinner involving the Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf and the Afghan President Hamid Karzai. That would be at the White House tomorrow night. Right now, President Musharraf is joining us here in New York for an in-depth interview. Mr. President, thanks very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
I want you to listen to this exchange I had with President Bush in New York last week on the hunt for Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda leaders. Listen to this. If you had good actionable intelligence in Pakistan where they were, would you give the order to kill them or capture them?
Absolutely.
And go into Pakistan?
Absolutely.
Even though the Pakistanis say that's
Absolutely.
their sovereign territory?
We would take the action necessary to bring him to justice.
Very blunt words from President Bush. Irrespective of your sovereignty, if they knew where bin Laden was in Pakistan, they would go in there.
Well, my comments I have been giving my comments that this is a sensitive area of and our decision is that we operate on our side of the border and US forces and allies operate on the other side. Now, having said that, we are hunting Osama and Zuhairi together. We are on the hunt, we are on the lookout for him. When we locate him, we have to take action. We have to take effective action to do away with him.
What would be wrong if the United States tried to capture or kill bin Laden or Ayman al-Zawahiri as number 2 in Pakistan?
Well, it is a very sensitive issue. We should not be discussing how and who is to deliver the blow, but whenever we locate him, we have to deal with him. And let's leave it at that, and let's not get into the sensitivities and who and how it will be done.
But you've discussed, you're a very candid, blunt president. You've discussed many sensitive issues in your new book, which we'll talk about. I'm trying to get an understanding. If the United States has certain technical means, military means, special operations forces, Hellfire missiles from Predator drones or whatever, to get the job done, perhaps talents that the Pakistani military or intelligence community doesn't have, you're close allies with the United States. Why not let the U.S. do that?
I can assure you that all the weapons that you're talking of are available, and we use them, and we use them effectively whenever we locate al-Qaeda on our side of the border, and let it remain at that. We will use anything that is required to deal with the situation.
Why is it okay, Mr. President, for the U.S. to operate in neighboring Afghanistan and try to hunt for al-Qaeda or Taliban leaders, but it wouldn't be okay to operate in Pakistan?
Please don't compare Pakistan with Afghanistan. Pakistan is a very, very stable country. We have a strong government. We have a strong military, we have a strong intelligence system, and everything in Afghanistan had broken down. So how can you compare the two? We don't want our sovereignty to be violated, whereas in Afghanistan there was an issue of terrorism within Afghanistan after 9/11, and the law and order was totally broken down. It was warlordism going on. It was the situation in Afghanistan was various warlords were controlling different parts of Afghanistan. How can you compare that with Pakistan?
Because some U.S. officials, and you know this very well, they fully support you. They have total confidence in you as the president of Pakistan, but there's a lot of concern about others in Pakistan, especially in the intelligence service, even within the military, that there could be moles that would tip off al-Qaeda or Taliban if the U.S. shared certain very sensitive information it could pick up. You're familiar with this.
Yeah, I am familiar, but I don't agree with that at all. Anyone who knows our intelligence services, anyone who knows our military, they will not say that. And in any case, we exchange the most sensitive issues, most sensitive information already. There is total coordination in the intelligence and at the operational level also.
But even there have been some threats against you from within your own military or your intelligence service. You've arrested certain people,
yes,
so presumably there is a threat there.
No, that happened so many years back, and that happened at the very low level. And in a force which is about 600,000, if you combine Army, Navy, Air Force, if there are about 5-6 individuals who've done that, there's not such an alarming issue, and that too at the lower ranks. No officer was involved. The armed forces of Pakistan are commanded by officers. Actions are taken by officers. Decisions are taken by officers. So these were some people who got affected by whatever was happening around, and these were individual acts of terrorism.
Let me read to you a sentence from an article that Peter Bergen, our CNN terrorism analyst, wrote in the Washington Post on September 10th. The key to the resurgent Taliban can be summarized in one word: Pakistan. The Pakistani government has proved unwilling or incapable or both of clamping down on the religious militia, even though the headquarters of the Taliban and its key allies are in Pakistan.
Now, this is shows ignorance of realities on ground. This is not the reality. Taliban were created in 95 in Afghanistan. They took over the whole of Afghanistan, 90%. Who were they? Were they from Pakistan? It is the same Mullah Omar, his same coterie, the same people who are doing this. And
there's people who are suggesting, Mr. President, that Mullah Muhammad Omar, the leader of the Taliban, is actually in Quetta in Pakistan.
This is most ridiculous. In Quetta in Pakistan, it's the provincial headquarters. There is a core headquarters, there are 2 divisions, there is a provincial government functioning, and there is an intelligence setup of CIA and ISI. I must say this, both of them are inefficient if they don't even know that Mullah Omar is there.
Let me press you on that. The CIA and the ISA, the Pakistani intelligence service, they're together working in Quetta right now. So the ISI and the CIA are in Quetta right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you're cooperating with the CIA in Quetta.
Everywhere. Whenever we track down terrorists, wherever they are, we get technical support from your people. But I would like to, this is a report of the United Nations, very briefly, I'll just take 1 minute. 24 September, day before yesterday, report of Secretary General on the situation in Afghanistan. I just want to read out a few. Insurgency is being conducted mostly by Afghans operating inside Afghanistan's borders. Leadership appears to rely on support and sanctuary from outside the country. Now this is where Pakistan gets involved. But more than that, let me just take. The report identifies 5 district leadership centers of the insurgency appearing to act in loose coordination with each other and benefiting from financial and operational links with the drug trafficking networks.
So you're talking about what's happening in Afghanistan right now. As you know, President Hamid Karzai is complaining about what's happening in your country.
Just 1 second. Now, they include the wing of, now this is what is happening there. Hizb Islami Party of Gulbuddin Hikmatyar is in Kunar, and Taliban Northern Command is in Nangarhar and Laghman provinces. Networks led by Jalaluddin Haqqani is in Khost and Paktia. Wana Shura for Paktika. Taliban Southern Command in Zabul, Kandahar, Helmand.
These are all areas in Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Just one more thing. The foot soldiers of the insurgency are Afghans recruited within Afghanistan. That is what I wanted to read. Now, I have been crying hoarse to the whole world, sir, this Taliban movement, let us not get it converted into a people's movement. And this is what is happening in Afghanistan. If we keep going wrong and thinking everything is in Pakistan, this is what will happen. Now, if everything is in Afghanistan, I must say Mullah Omar is damn crazy to be sitting in Quetta when his people who are fighting his army is sitting in Afghanistan.
We have to take a short commercial break, but before we do, I just want to press you on this point. The last time you and I spoke was in March. And you said this. You said about President Hamid Karzai, the man you're going to have dinner with tomorrow night at the White House with President Bush. You said then that President Karzai, and I'm quoting now, is totally oblivious of what is happening in his own country. And you just referred to a lot that's happening in Afghanistan right now. Question. Is he still oblivious to what is happening in Afghanistan, or do you owe him an apology?
He is not oblivious. He knows everything, but he is purposely denying, turning a blind eye like an ostrich. He doesn't want to tell the world what is the fact for his own personal reasons. This is what I think.
Whatever his own personal reasons. Why would he not want to be blunt, and, as you always are?
There are, in the governance in Afghanistan, there is a certain community which is feeling alienated. And this community has 50 to 60% representation of Afghanistan. And that is his problem. He has to balance out, and he is not being able to do that. And therefore, he is trying to hide that everything is happening from Pakistan. If we keep going wrong, I have been telling the world since 3 months, we are delaying, we are getting late. All this that I have read is what is happening in Afghanistan, in all the provinces. This is a movement going on. This is a Pakhtun uprising by the people going on. If he doesn't understand this, he will keep going on, and we are going to lose in Afghanistan.
At dinner tomorrow night at the White House is going to be an exciting dinner. Stand by, Mr. President. We have a lot more to talk about, including your deal with what are called Taliban leaders along the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. We're also going to talk about Pakistan's role in disseminating nuclear equipment around the world. Much more of my interview with the Pakistani President, Pervez Musharraf. We're standing by. We're live here in the Situation Room. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're speaking with the President of Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf. He's here in the Situation Room. Mr. President, this deal that you worked out with these tribal elders along the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, some describe it as effectively amnesty for Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. You reject that. You say this is part of the war against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The London Daily Telegraph, though, this past Sunday wrote this: the fugitive Taliban commander Mullah Omar has emerged as the key player behind the movement's controversial peace deal with Pakistan. The Taliban's one-eyed spiritual leader, who has a $10 million price on his head for refusing to hand over Osama bin Laden after the September 11 attacks, signed a letter explicitly endorsing the truce announced this month. Your reaction?
No, I don't really know anything about what they are saying. I don't know whether they have proof of this. I would like to have the proof of Mullah Omar having supported this process. But however, I am interested in the effects. They approached the governor themselves to reach this peace deal. And the peace deal is between, as you said, with the tribal elders. And the basic strategy which we must understand, when I am saying we want to avoid the greatest danger, the disastrous danger of this being converted, the Taliban getting converted into a people's movement, we can only do that if we understand that all Pakhtun are, but Taliban are all Pakhtuns, but all Pakhtuns are not Taliban. We need to take away the Pakhtuns majority, it is in majority, I know that, from the Taliban.
Right.
And this deal is intended to take the majority away from the Pakhtun, wean them away, and then utilize them with the force backup to counter the Taliban. This is the political strategy which is the right direction. Maybe it should be replicated across the border if we succeed.
You've written a new book, In the Line of Fire, a memoir in which you make many explosive charges in this book, one of which that suggests perhaps Pakistan was a reluctant ally of the United States in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. The warning you supposedly got, denied by Richard Armitage, that the U.S. would bomb you back to the Stone Age if you didn't cooperate. You know the denials from Richard Armitage. He insists he never told your intelligence director anything like that.
No, I've written whatever I heard, and my intelligence director did say that. Now, I would leave it at that. He didn't contact me. He didn't say that to me.
Is that why you cooperated with the U.S.? Because of the threat?
No.
Because you also write about war games that you were engaged in your military to at least plan for the possibility of the U.S. and Pakistan engaged in military conflict against each other.
No, this is not the case. The first thing that came to my mind was Pakistan. Pakistan's national interests, Pakistan's security. So as far as Pakistan's interest is concerned, we ourselves were victim of terrorism, and we ourselves were against Al-Qaeda or any form of terrorism, whether it is Taliban. We were against Talibanization of Pakistan. So basically it is in national interest that I took the decision. However, we took into account certainly that we are a nuclear state. Destabilizing a nuclear state would certainly cause a lot of upheaval in the world, and therefore the decision, which was very balanced, based on realities, ground realities, that we took this decision.
You also write in the book this, and I want to put it up on the screen because it's a very sensitive point right now in the current debate in the United States. I'll read to you what you write. I never favored the invasion of Iraq because I feared it would exacerbate extremism, as it has most certainly done. The world is not a safer place because of the war in Iraq. The world has become far more dangerous. This is very different than what President Bush says, including today in the aftermath of this debate over this latest U.S. national intelligence estimate of the impact of the war in Iraq on the war on terror. Is there anything you want to revise or amend from this statement, or do you stand by what you wrote in the book as far as the war in Iraq and its effect on the global war on terrorism?
Yeah, I stand by it. Absolutely.
So you disagree with the President of the United States?
Well, I've stated whatever I had to, that this has made the world a more dangerous place.
So you'll have an interesting conversation with the President on that tomorrow when you meet with him for dinner as well. Pakistan is the first Muslim country that developed a nuclear bomb. From your perspective, is it okay if Iran follows your lead?
So we developed it because of our security perspective, because of our threat perception. We don't believe that there should be any more nuclear proliferation, and we don't think that Iran suffers from a threat perception that we suffered.
So you would oppose Iran's going forward, they deny they're doing this, but going forward enriching uranium with the purpose of building a bomb?
Yeah, we are against it. We would be against it.
How far along are they? Because as you know, A.Q. Khan, your nuclear scientist, did provide them with certain sophisticated technologies.
Well, I can't say at all, but I know for a fact that just giving drawings of centrifuges or parts of centrifuges or even 10 or 12 centrifuges doesn't mean anything, because you need caskets of thousands of centrifuges to be able to enrich uranium to that level within a span of time. I really don't know whether they have caskets of thousands, and if they have them, they have got them from the West, because these are all available. The metallurgy is available only in Europe and United States.
Let me read to you also from the book, In the Line of Fire. You write this: those who habitually accuse us of not doing enough in the war on terror should simply ask the CIA how much prize money it has paid to the government of Pakistan. We asked the CIA how much prize money they paid to the government of Pakistan. They have no comment. We've asked former intelligence officials who say that no such money was paid. They give rewards to individuals, but no prize money to Pakistan.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is to the government of Pakistan. I don't think I wrote to the government of Pakistan.
The book says, page 237, okay. The government, paid to the government of Pakistan. You want to revise that?
Okay, yeah, I think that if it is written government of Pakistan, yeah, it has to, these people, there are so many of them with head money of $5 million. They are declared head money. So it has to be given. Now, to whom it is given and how it is given, I don't even know the details. But however, there is not one person who is involved in these operations. There is a whole organization and a whole operation that goes on of intelligence and law enforcement agencies. So how the money gets distributed, it is distributed to people, certainly. So I am very clear that this money does get distributed. I am not even involved in who distributes and who exactly gets.
The U.S. Justice Department does confirm they've given money to Pakistani citizens for help, resulting in the arrest of certain high-level officials.
And not the government, and I would like, if I've written the government of Pakistan, no, government of Pakistan hasn't received anything.
All right, Mr. President, always good to speak with you. In the Line of Fire is your memoir. You're going to have a fascinating dinner tomorrow night at the White House with President Bush and President Hamid Karzai. We'd love to invite you and President Karzai to come here into the Situation Room and discuss these issues jointly. If you're interested, we could certainly make that arrangement in Washington tomorrow.
We need to have the proper atmosphere and proper attitudes. Then only should we sit together instead of showing the whole world what is happening. I think this is a situation where we need to coordinate effort. We need to be harmony. There needs to be harmony between Afghanistan, Pakistan, allied forces, especially United States. And if there is disharmony, if there is disagreement even on the environment, it is the most terrible. And I think at the moment there is total misunderstanding of the environment by Afghanistan and Karzai. And I know Karzai knows the environment, but he is denying these realities. And putting all it, he's finding it more convenient to throw the blame on Pakistan, that Mullah Omar is there, headquarters of Taliban is there. I've read out the UN report. I have been saying exactly this since 3 months. Everyone is telling Pakistan is supporting them financially. If Pakistan is supporting, then I am supporting, because we are controlling finances. The Prime Minister, who was my ex-finance minister, must be giving the money to them. Or there is no philanthropist in Pakistan who is doing all this. The money is from drugs. And this is very clear.
We have to unfortunately leave it there, Mr. President. Thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And coming up here in the Situation Room is the Bush administration on the same page as President Musharraf.